Hello and welcome to this video on goal setting in higher PE. Today we're going to talk about why we set goals, what are the considerations for setting goals, and why goals may need to be adapted during a PDP. Some common questions that we're going to look at today is to explain why you set this goal, explain the reasons why performers set goals, explain why goals may need to be adapted during a PDP, and explain the considerations a performer may face when setting goals or targets for the mental, emotional, social, or physical factor. So, why do we set goals? What is the purpose of setting goals? Well, on screen just now are some reasons for setting goals or for setting targets. Performers will set goals and targets to give them a focus when training, so that means that every time they come to do a session in their PDP, they're focused on one particular weakness. They're trying to improve that over their 10-week PDP. This will help to maintain their motivation and determination and desire to improve that specific weakness, and if they can see that they are meeting their short-term goals, their weekly targets, this is going to help to build some confidence, make them feel good about themselves, and also a motivation and a desire to get better. Setting goals will give us some feedback about our performance level, so we've got an idea of where we are and where we're trying to get to, and also if we check our short-term goals we can see, are we actually improving, are we making progress. And lastly, they'll set goals as a method of monitoring, and this means that each week we can check to see is our PDP working, and if it is working we can then make some changes and adaptations to make our PDP progressively harder. Here are some common questions that explore the reasons for goal setting. You may be asked to explain why a performer will set targets or explain why you set this goal, and that would usually come as a follow-up question to something that has come before. Other things you need to be aware of when talking about goal setting in higher PE is you need to know your SMART principles, and they stand for specific, measurable, adjustable or achievable, recorded and time-bound. When we say specific, we mean specific to you and your weakness, specific to one factor or a sub-factor, and our goals also need to be measurable. We need to make sure that there's some sort of comparison there, and there must be a starting point. So I want to improve my anxiety in 2 weeks' time using the SCAT test from 21 to 19. So you can see my starting point, and then there's some way of measuring whether or not I've met that target in 2 weeks' time. We want our goals to be challenging but achievable, and we also want them to be adjustable. We want to be able to make adaptations to them to make them harder if we have met our targets, or they need to be able to be changed to make easier if we can. Our goals need to be written down and recorded somewhere, and the best place to do this is a training diary, and most importantly, there needs to be a time period where we can check back and see if we have met these targets in a few weeks' time. So, at higher PE, you may also be asked what are the considerations when setting goals for the mental, emotional, social, or physical factor. And here are some considerations for setting goals, some example answers. So, before starting a PDP, performers may set goals to give each session a focus. For example, if I am looking to improve my CRE, I will set weekly targets to run for longer during my PDP. This means that every time I go to training, I'm focused on improving my CRE, which is my specific weakness. Before starting a PDP, performers will set targets to check for progress. For example, after each week on the PDP, I can check my short-term goals in my training diary. This means every week I can check to see if my short-term goals are being met and if my program is working, and then make some adaptations. Lastly, we need to think about why goals may be adapted. Now, your goals and targets may change during the course of your PDP, and some reasons for those goals or targets changing is if they have been met, or alternatively, if they're too difficult. And lastly, if you were to become injured or something was to happen during your PDP which meant that you weren't going to be able to meet your goals and targets. Think a little bit about your target grades at school. If you were targeted at a B, and maybe if you achieve a B in your prelim halfway through the year, your teacher may sit down with you and discuss perhaps changing your target grade to an A because they think you're capable of getting that in the final exam. Thanks for watching this video on goal setting. I hope you found it useful. There's more videos about the types of goals on my YouTube